as I said the last time I talked, I think the most important thing for any team this time of year, but especially our team, is to reestablish the identity that this particular team is going to have for this year. And we've had 2 really good first practices. Carryover seems to be pretty good, especially with the younger players. The 12 new guys that came in, I think there's a few guys there that can probably help us in some way, but it's probably too early to know for sure exactly how that would be, what that would be, and how much that would be. But I think a good question for every player to ask themselves, right now is, what do you want in order to accomplish the goals and aspirations to be successful, but what are you willing to do it? I think is probably a better question. And we ask the players to invest in themselves, but sometimes, you have to give a little something up. Very important to have the right recovery in terms of sleep, what you do off the field as well as what you do on the field. Sleep, how you hydrate, how you take care of yourself, how you eat, how you dissipate. All these things affect ability to recover, which affects performance, which in turn affects how effective a player you really are when you get out on the field. I think the acclimation program that we do right now is probably a good thing. 2 days in shorts, 2 days in shoulder pads, and then we can get into full pads. I think it's good for the players. We can do a lot of good teaching in these days in shorts, which I think we've been able to accomplish. And, we want to make determinations as to who can play winning football relative to the kind of intangibles that they play with, whether it's mental and physical toughness, whether it's ability to sustain effort, whether it's responsible to do your job, know what your job is, how to do it, why it's important to do it that way. All these things are important to being able to play winning football on a consistent basis, and that's what we're trying to focus on, to see how many guys we have on this team that can play winning football. And I think in doing that, as coaches, we don't want the guys to be risk-aversive and be afraid to make mistakes. We want them to play fast, play hard, and learn from the mistakes that they make, and know that that's a good opportunity to improve. And as I said many times before, self-assessment is important. Ability to take correction is important, so that you can improve and get better. So I'm pleased with the staff chemistry, the good teachers that we have on our staff. I think it's been really good so far, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to build on that.
Going back to Brian, how much do you think his defensive background as a player and also early on in his coaching career has influenced his kind of his offensive strategy?
Well, I think any good offensive coach really understands defense. One of the things that I see in a lot of offensive coaches is they're very systematic in terms of what they do, but their knowledge of defense is maybe, and how they attack things. If you're playing a certain coverage on defense and you really understand how that coverage is being taught and implemented and what the keys are for the defensive players, then you have a better chance to exploit that by how you attack it with the patterns and what gives it a problem. I think that's been probably the contribution that I've been able to make to our offense, is my experience of being a secondary coach for more years than I want to admit to. I can always say, this is the hardest thing against that. And I think when you've been a defensive player and you have that understanding, I think that only helps you be able to do that effectively.
Come back up front, Dwayne.
Why do you work so well with coaches that are so not only successful but perfectionist, intense guys?
I was raised by some old school grandparents that, that's wasn't always the easiest too. Sometimes they're pretty demanding, but it's a mindset. You have a boss, you have a job, and you're hired for a reason, and you have to know there's a hierarchy to every organization. So the leader of the organization is the guy that you take the lead from, and whatever he asks you to do, that's what you do. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And if you don't do it, there's always consequences, particularly in this business. So I got a tremendous amount of respect for Bill and Coach Saban. They've been great mentors. Obviously extremely smart, extremely successful, and I appreciate the way they do things. They make it easy to work for. There's a standard. The standard. You got to meet it every day, and if you don't, there's consequences. And I think it's very fair. It's demanding, but I like the work environment.
Brian, where have you seen Jalen? I don't know how much film you watched of him last season, but how much did you watch of him last season? How much has he improved as a passer, both from the spring and now into the fall camp?
He's an extremely hard worker, dedicated to his craft as a young man to try to play the position the best he can. I've watched every piece of film that he's had, whether it's last year or in the spring. And our goal, our mantra really, not just for Jalen, but for all the quarterbacks and the guys on our team, is to improve every single day with their fundamentals.